This module, I had 15 students that didn't take advantage of kind of avoiding the late penalty. And I'll encourage you again, if you are even behind on a project and another project's due, if you just submit something to the blog indicating what you're working on, what your plan is to catch up, I will, in all likelihoods, remove any kind of late penalty on your project. So if you're seeing minus ones and they're not getting cleared up and you're losing points, it's I guess a way for me to judge your class participation or engagement in the course. And it's as easy as I can make it to for you to avoid this kind of a grading problem for you. And it can add up in the end and really cost you a letter grade. So please, once again, do engage me if you're behind. If you're not going to complete the project by the midnight deadline, send me a screenshot what you completed on a partial presentation sheet. I'll grade it, and I will not mark you with the -1 point. So I guess hopefully enough said on that. It also happens quite frequently that students will send me a Revit file for me to review, and I'll see the .00 something extension on it. I want to make it clear that those are files that Revit is making for backup, and they're not something that you've created, and they happen incrementally according to a time that's passed within the document. You can actually adjust that, but I'm not going to go into that. I want to make it clear, though, that you shouldn't be opening these files or using them. You should always be going to the root file. Like in the case of the top one here, we have CV3 start with an extension on it. That's the backup file. The CV3 start is the actual file that you want to work with. And in this case, it looks like this in these cases, the file was exited for this one without a save to the original file. In the one down here at the bottom, you can see that this one is actually the last one that got saved with the timestamp on it. So be careful, make sure you're opening up your actual document file and not the incremental ones that Revit has made, because they'll likely not contain all of the work that you've completed on the project at the time you've saved it. I get a lot of questions about this ghosting on our presentation sheets. I've used the technique of making a full background, and I think up till 2018 it was no issue. It seems that they've done something with the way they display this, and we get this little bit of ghosting when we place our images on our screen. I'm hoping they're going to eventually clear this up, because it's really nice to be able to make these Revit presentation screens. And it's also not all that objectionable to the final layout, but realize that it's not an issue that you've created. It's a software glitch inside of our software. Another thing I want to apologize for this week, or this module, is when we were making the transition from M4 to M5, starting M5, many of you started with a file that didn't contain the technical sheets and then had to reconstruct them. And that's because I didn't really make it clear that you needed the file that had those technical sheets in it. And some of you, we made 2 file saves. We saved the rendering in realistic mode and the rendering in a sketch mode. And I didn't make it clear that you needed to open the file that had the technical drawings in it. So I apologize for that. And I'm going to make that correction for the next go round of this course, but unfortunately it cost some of you some time. These are just some tidbit facts I keep finding, and I think it's interesting. This is a discussion about, well, it started out with universal BIM standards, but one of the facts in it that I thought was interesting was that large firms, 100% of large firms use BIM. 88%, an overwhelming majority of mid-sized firms use BIM, and that usually would translate to using Revit. But only 37% of small firms under 10 employees use it. And that's not a static number. I think every year you'll see this number creeping up. But currently it would be possible that you would work for a small firm and you'd be coming in as the expert on how to use building information modeling. Just a little tidbit of a fact. Another one that I saw, kind of COVID related, our idea of working from home is remarkably changed. So this is just some facts about the industries that we work in and how interested people are from working remotely. And this is a huge opportunity for, I guess, the next generation of architects and it could be create the kind of work flexibility um, that could help you secure a job in a location that you actually weren't living. So keep in mind the workplace has changed with the ideas of remote working, and there are companies that are very open to the concept. I had a few submittals on our light study, our second light study, that I thought were remarkable. Remarkable in that I wanted to share them with you. I thought this was very nice. I also thought the student added the next set of windows on the other side of the building and put the drafting boards in. I thought it was just a nice exploration in thinking about surfaces that get lit and what kind of illumination they have. So I also went ahead and thought that in the software we have a built-in ability to animate that lighting. So I'm not going to go into it. You can actually just click on through the rendering section and export it as a movie. But I wanted to show you what you can do once you've gone through and made these ideas of lighting. You've lit your system. You can actually evaluate the light. In this case, it's 4 different times of the year. So it's the same time of day, but the sun position throughout the year. And so this is just an animation of that. Quick to do. I used to ask students to actually create these, but the files, the ability to see the files and share the files they were just too large. And so I'm not requiring that. But I want to make you aware that that function is available. This is a local architect. This is on rendering, and I thought the idea of photorealism, an existing building, and the architectural, proposal for the improvement of that facade. And you can see how compelling it is, how realistic it looks. Our tools, our software, are getting really powerful, and it's really hard to distinguish between that which is real and not. And I just was really inspired by this kind of work, and I hope I hope in your career, or actually in your education, you'll be moving to being able to create these kind of great images also. I want to take a minute and talk about these spline tools. I missed this during one live lecture. I just wanted to show you the functionality of the splines. So I'm going to jump out to Revit here, and I'll close this file off. And I'll open up a new architectural model. And we'll actually go to, I think I can go right to annotate. And I'm going to draw a detail line. Spline tool is available for anything. It could be the shape, the flow of a wall, I believe a wall. It could be the shape of a roof, any kind of surface, any kind of modification to a wall opening. But I wanted to show you how it works. The spline tool defines its shape by these control points. So I'm going to put 4 control points in and click out of that. And I want to show you how the amount of tremendous flexibility you have in the modification of these curves and shapes. And in the one thing I want to point out to you is that the best way to make a good spline is to put as few points as possible in as needed. So sometimes you only need 3 or 4 points to create about an endless amount of variations in the way you can actually shape the form that you're designing. So that's just want to introduce you to that. So we have a start point, an end point, and then a couple of control points. And they were all started with the creation of 4 points in the shape. And so the other thing that's going on is don't try to make the exact shape as you lay out the points. You'll actually, if you're trying to copy a line or a shape, you'll just throw 4 points on the board, and then you'll just move these points in order to get them to line up with the shape that you might be desiring. There's a problem with splines that I've run into, and I've seen other people have this issue, and it's not been resolved. Is the software won't allow us to connect the start and end point of a spline, and that creates problems when we want to do extrusions. So one of the techniques here is to actually bring these points as close together as possible. We're going to work with splines in our next module, so I just wanted to introduce these to you briefly. And in the next clip, we'll start talking about space frames.